are you joking? What is happening? And I just felt so relaxed. I need to push. This baby is coming. Hi guys, I hope you're doing well. Welcome back to my channel, and welcome if you're new here. My name is Barbie. I am mummy to a nearly 3-year-old little boy called Kian, and now we also have our 8-week-old little girl Maya. I would love for you to subscribe down below, and also make sure you hit the like button if you enjoy this video. It helps out my channel so much. Yeah, I have tried to film this video so many times. My makeup's done, baby's asleep, I'm sat down, but my brain is just scrambled, so I'm so sorry if this makes no sense whatsoever, but I've got my notes here. We had the most incredible home birth 8 weeks ago, and I've been desperate to film this video just so I can have it documented for me to watch back in years to come. But I also just wanted to share it for any pregnant mums who might be preparing for a home birth, or who want to go down the kind of natural route and are just looking for positive stories. I loved watching these when I was pregnant, and I've also filmed my son's birth story, which I'll leave linked up above. I actually can't believe that I've been so lucky to have both of my children and to have a positive experience both times. So if you're watching this and you're pregnant, I just want you to know that if I can do it, you can do it. I want you to watch this and feel empowered and positive, because honestly I'm such a wuss when it comes to pain, and I genuinely believe if I can do it, anyone can do it. So I'm gonna get into it because this is gonna be a really long video. But Maya was born on the Monday. I was 9 days overdue when she was actually born, but it all kind of kicked off 7 days past my due date on the Saturday night. I actually had a really bad tummy for 2 weeks leading up to labour. So at 3 AM on the Saturday night, I was woken up by these kind of cramps. I didn't know if they were stomach cramps or actually anything related to labour, but they did start coming regularly, and it just felt like kind of mildish period pain. It would come and go. They started coming regularly every kind of 10 to 15 minutes, and that went on until 8 AM, and during that time I started to get really excited. I was thinking, oh my god, the baby's coming. So I actually texted my mum and dad that morning and asked if they could come and pick up Kian, just in case I did go into labour. So Sunday morning I woke up and the contractions just stopped again. The same thing happened with Kian, but I wasn't actually too disappointed because we had planned for a home birth, and that evening there wasn't actually a midwife on call. So if I did go into labour Sunday night, I would have had to go into hospital. So I was kind of hoping that baby could just hold on one more day so that we could have a home birth. So that day my mum and dad came over just to help out with Kian. We kept him at home that day, and yeah, we just had a nice day, chilled, ate loads of food. I was bouncing away on the birthing ball, and then around 5 o'clock I remember I started to feel contractions again. So that night my mum and dad did take Kian over to their house, and I cried my eyes out. I didn't know how emotional I'd get about leaving Kian to, you know, give birth and bring another child into our family. And yeah, I just felt like, oh my god, your world is going to change forever. So he went off to my mum and dad's, and then me and Tony were just at home. It felt really weird being in the house without Kian. It got to around 8:30 and I was super tired because I hadn't really slept the night before. So we took ourselves off to bed thinking that things might start in the middle of the night. We actually sleep in the loft room, but that day we went and slept in the middle floor just in case I went into labour and I couldn't make it down the stairs. So we tried to get some sleep until around midnight, but then things started to get a lot more painful and we decided to go downstairs. We also called the hospital just in case I had to go in, but I was really hoping that baby could hold off until 8 AM because that's when the next home birth midwife would be on call again. So we went downstairs and we watched Friends. We thought it might be a good idea to watch something funny to, you know, relax me and get the oxytocin flowing. But to be honest, I was just really tired. It was like I was waiting for things to ramp up, but nothing was really happening. We were down there for a good, I think like 3-4 hours, and then I thought this is pointless. So I went back up to bed at 3. I also had the TENS machine on at this point because the contractions were getting quite intense, but they weren't coming regularly, maybe every 15 to 20 minutes at that point. So I went back to bed with the TENS machine strapped on, and I actually did manage to get some sleep. So every time I had a contraction I would just whack it on high and then have the contraction and then fall asleep again. But it got to about 7:30 and I realized that every time I was having a contraction now, it was getting really painful, and I was almost like going up on all fours, sticking the TENS machine on high and then lying down and going back to sleep. And it got to the point where I couldn't sleep between the contractions anymore. It was all really weird. I remember like half conscious going through these contractions, trying to breathe through them, putting the TENS machine on, but I was also watching the clock, waiting until 8 a.m. to make sure that we could have a home birth, and also aware that things could move quite fast. Everyone kept saying like second labours go really fast. So I think at 7:30 I said to Tony, this is getting painful, why don't you go downstairs and start filling the pool? Because up until that point, everything that had happened was exactly the same as how my labour had went with Kian. I remember with Kian, after I woke up, things really ramped up, things happened really fast, and I went into active labour, we went into hospital, so I was kind of thinking the same would happen. But I woke up, the pool was half filled, and my contractions just completely stopped again, and I was literally like, are you joking? What is happening? They went from being really painful contractions, which I had to breathe through, to like completely disappearing. So I was a bit frustrated and annoyed. I'm just looking at my notes. At 8 o'clock we texted the midwife to say that things have been happening, but at the moment nothing's going on. And yeah, that morning was just so weird. We were at home, it was so quiet because Kian wasn't around, and we were all set up. We had the birthing pool out, we had the sofa bed out, and I was just there on my birthing ball bouncing away, just like waiting. I started googling exercises and things to do to try and get the baby out, and I was doing a few of those things, but to be honest I was so tired. I hadn't really slept for 2 nights by that point, so I was just exhausted, and I think maybe that's why my contractions slowed down. But they did start coming every half an hour or so, like really sporadically, but when they did come they were painful. And as the day went on, the contractions were really far apart, but they were getting more and more painful. I remember there was a point, it must have been around like 12 o'clock, we ordered a pizza. I ate like half the pizza, which is so weird because when I was in labour with Kian I couldn't eat anything at all, so I was obviously still in early labour. I ate my pizza, was bouncing away on the birthing ball, and we were watching something really boring. It was like Homes Under the Hammer, or we were watching Kirsty and Phil's Love It or List It, and usually I love that show, but I was just finding it really slow, really boring. And I remember I was just sitting on the ball and I was getting these really painful contractions every kind of 15 minutes to half an hour. Like there was no pattern to them whatsoever, but when they came they were really painful. I still had the TENS machine strapped on and I was still using that, but I remember at some point I took it off just because I was finding the wires really annoying. And I did also go for a shower. At that point we hadn't bothered timing anything because there was just no point, like nothing was happening. On this day at 4 o'clock I actually had my 41-week midwife appointment booked. So when I texted the midwife in the morning I asked if I could still have that appointment, and she came along. Pretty much that whole day was just waiting for her to arrive. We had this amazing midwife called Helen and I love her to bits. I asked her for a sweep. I really didn't want to have a sweep because I had the most horrendous sweep in my last pregnancy, and I also remember having examinations and just hating them. So my birth plan was to actually have a home birth, unmedicated, with no examinations or sweeps, but by this point I just really wanted to get the baby out. So I asked her to give me a sweep when she came along at 4, and I swear to God I did not even feel the sweep. She was so gentle. She told me I was 2 centimeters and I was literally like, what is that it? 2 centimeters. She also did something called post-dates therapy, which is like a mix of acupressure and reflexology and aromatherapy. So she started off kind of pushing down on pressure points that are supposed to induce labor, and then she gave me the most incredible it felt like a foot massage, but I think it's reflexology. But she was massaging my feet and using all these different oils, and I just felt so relaxed. And while she was doing it I actually started to get contractions, really quite intense contractions, and I think the sweep and the reflexology together definitely did something, because as soon as she left my mucus plug fell out. So Helen left the house at like 5 o'clock, and at that point I told Tony to go upstairs, try and get some sleep, get some rest. I was only 2 centimeters and I thought you might as well get some sleep in now before the baby comes. I was just hanging out in the kitchen. I put some like spa music on and I was kind of hanging over the birthing ball on the playmat, just like hanging out. The contractions were coming and they started to get really intense. I was in a really awkward position because I was like hanging over the birthing ball and I had the TENS machine. I just had to put Maya down. I really hope she stays asleep. Yeah, so I had to keep putting the TENS machine on and putting the Freya app on to time the contractions, and I also had this like squeezy toy of Kian's that I was squeezing. And at that point as well, I remember a few times I had to go to the loo. I kind of had diarrhea and actually starting to feel like I needed to push a bit. At 7:30 I called Tony downstairs and I was like, mate, these are getting really painful, really painful. I had to stop and like hold on to the kitchen counter, and I was starting to count as I was breathing through the contractions. I had to kind of start mentally telling myself, you can do it, like use all these positive affirmations. I actually remember googling positive birth affirmations, and I saw something along the lines of the pain you're feeling is safe. So I just kept telling myself, you're safe, the pain is safe, it's good pain, you know, nothing's gonna happen to you, that sort of thing, because I think your body is not used to that level of pain, and you kind of do have to tell yourself like nothing's gonna happen, it's all okay, this is what's supposed to happen, it's what your body is supposed to be doing. So at 7:30 Tony came downstairs and I asked him to start filling up the birthing pool, and I also told him to call the midwife. I think the contractions were coming between every 5 to 10 minutes, and I think to call the midwife you're supposed to have a contraction when you're having 3 contractions every 10 minutes, but I was not having that and I was in a lot of pain. So the midwife lived an hour away and I didn't want her to turn up too late, so we decided to call her. But I did feel a bit nervous about calling her. I was thinking, what if I ask her to come and I'm not actually anywhere near labour? But the pain was so intense and my gut was telling me call her. So I was judging it on pain rather than timings, which I'm so glad I did because everything just happened so fast. We're at 7:30 on Monday, Tony's filled up the pool and I was ready to jump in it as soon as it was ready. And let me tell you, the pain relief from that pool, it was just like, oh, it was incredible. I remember like just getting in and feeling the water like rise up me and just feeling like all of that pain be numb. Honestly, like it's amazing what hot water can do. It's like when you have your period and you put a hot water bottle on your belly. Yeah, the pool was amazing. I actually much preferred the inflatable pool that you have for a home birth than the one in the hospital, and I was using the hose to kind of numb the pain on my back. So I think around 8:15, 8:30 Helen arrived, and when I called her I said, please bring the gas and air. So she turned up with these canisters, and as soon as she walked in I was like, can I have the gas and air? She was literally like, no. Oh, you know, I don't think you need the gas and air, you look like you're handling it just fine. She did all my checks, she checked my blood pressure and heart rate, baby's heart rate, all those things. That took maybe 15 minutes. I think she was also super chilled out and just maybe a little bit annoyed that I was only having contractions every 5 to 6 minutes. I think she thought she would be sitting there for quite a long time. But as soon as she finished my checks, I was like, I think I need to push. I'm feeling the urge to push. And yeah, I think that was enough for her to give me the gas and air. She called another midwife, a backup midwife, to come from the hospital, because I think when you have a home birth you have to have 2 midwives with you. And this is one of the reasons I'm so glad I had a home birth, because I genuinely think if I wasn't giving birth at home, I might have given birth in the car. Like at 5 o'clock, I was 2 centimeters dilated, and we're talking like 2-3 hours later, and I'm like, I need to push. This baby is coming. I mean, it was around maybe 8:30, and I was starting to feel like I needed to push, and Helen gave me the gas and air. But to be honest, like, it wasn't really doing it for me. The best thing about the gas and air is actually having something to hold. It kind of helps you focus on your breathing. And by that point, I was like swaying, I was counting. I remember with Kian, I used like a square visualization to get through the contraction, because each contraction has like a peak and then it goes off. So I was using a square to just like breathe in, out, in, out, in, out, in, out, until I could just pass that peak of the contraction. And I was also like really gripping onto Tony's hand. You just naturally get into this squat position, and yeah, Tony was kind of holding me up, and the contractions were coming on really strong at that point. I remember like the pain was just intense, so intense. Like it had been intense leading up, but now they were getting to that kind of back-to-back contraction point. They were coming back to back, and I remember I was like swaying and I was mooing, and I could just feel this really strong urge to push. I was kind of rocking through the contractions like like that sort of thing, and I started kind of like going that sort of weird mooing noise. My neighbours like definitely heard because they texted us the next day to ask if the baby had come. The doorbell rang and the other midwife came, and yeah, then she was kind of born. I felt her head come down and I started to panic a bit because I think the whole thing is a bit alarming. I was a bit worried that if I gave it too much of a push I would tear, but also like you do need to push hard to get the baby out. So Helen kept telling me like, follow your body, do what your body wants to do, and that was just not cutting it for me. Like I was literally like, can you tell me what to do now? Like I don't know what to do. So she kind of stepped in a bit more and was like, right, the contractions coming, push really hard. So then I would push as hard as I could, and then as soon as the contraction stopped I would just slump over the side of the birthing pool. Like it is incredible how much energy you have to use to push a baby out, and then when the contraction stopped you're just absolutely drained, and then it's go time again, it's time to go. So I was pushing and I could feel her head come down, and I was like panicking a bit. I could feel the head come down and back up again and down, you know, I had to push through to the ring of fire bit. And yeah, I did really panic at that point, and I remember my leg cramped up and I was just like, ah, and at last I pushed and I just like did a massive scream. My leg was cramping, I pushed her out, I pushed her head out. Yeah, the ring of fire is stingy, it's really stingy. And then the contraction stopped and I was in the pool with just her head hanging out, which was weird. Is she okay? Is this supposed to be happening? The midwives were really reassuring. They said, you know, the baby's been in water, it's come out in water, she's absolutely fine. I didn't give birth to Kian in the water, and I actually had a midwife hold my perineum because I was so scared of tearing with Kian. But this time I just didn't have time to get out the pool, and Helen was like, give it a go, like you can do it. She really like empowered me to give birth in the water. So yeah, at that point I was in the pool, her head was hanging out, and I was feeling like, oh my god, now I've got to get the body out. But pushing the body out wasn't as bad as the head. I guess it's like the skull that has to get through, which is the hard part, but pushing the body out was just like one big push, and she came out. And before that, Helen had told me, when the baby comes out, I'm gonna catch it from behind, push it under you, and you pick it up. I could feel like the body, and she pushed it under me and I picked her up, and she was just this like amazing baby. Oh, it makes me so emotional. Just this beautiful baby. She was so soft and like, I need to push, this baby is coming really. And I was like, it's a boy. Yeah, Helen was like, no, it's not a boy, that's just the umbilical cord. But I was there and I was like, it's a boy, Tony, it's a boy. But yeah, she handed me the baby and we just cuddled. I looked at her beautiful face. I just put her straight to my chest, and we did skin to skin for maybe 10 minutes in the pool, and it was really nice. Helen took a photo of us straight away, like as soon as she was born. She took a photo of us. So yeah, I did skin to skin for maybe 10-15 minutes, and they kept telling me to hold her under the water to keep her warm, and I kept forgetting and bringing her up. Around 10-15 minutes afterwards, Tony cut the cord, and that's when like the pool gets really icky. We came out the pool and we had the sofa bed set up. Tony took Maya at that point and I delivered the placenta. It just kind of happened naturally. Obviously the placenta is all like squishy and slushy, so delivering it wasn't really painful at all. It just kind of plopped out. She told me I didn't have any tears. Again, I've been so lucky. Both times I only had like mild grazing. I think I might have actually had a small internal tear because the recovery hurt, but I think she just thought it wasn't bad enough to stitch up, and she didn't tell me. She just said it was like a little bit grazed. And then we just did loads of skin to skin. It was so nice having a home birth because, you know, you're at home, you don't have to go to a ward. Helen stayed with us until maybe midnight. Maya was born at around 9:20 and the midwife stayed with us until like past midnight. She was helping me latch and making sure we had feeding down and just, you know, soaking up all that lovely newborn time with us. Both of the midwives were so sweet. They were just giving me all the compliments. They were like, you did amazing, you wouldn't even know you just gave birth, like showering me with compliments, which was so nice. I love all that. It just made me feel really proud of myself. Oh, also straight after I gave birth, Helen was showing me the placenta and she was like, do you want to keep it? And I was like, no interest, just get rid of it. She was like, you know, you can bury it in the garden, it's really good for like fertilizer and all this stuff. And I was like, to be honest, like just get rid of it. And then she was like, right, I'm gonna make you a smoothie. So she took Tony off into the kitchen and chopped up my placenta and made me a placenta smoothie. Now normally that would like totally freak me out, but I'd just given birth, I was exhausted, and I was like, you know what, whatever. So they made me this really lovely fruit smoothie. It was actually really refreshing. Great thing to drink after giving birth because it's just like really cold, refreshing. I couldn't taste the placenta at all. They put loads of fruit in it and I think they only put like a tiny little chunk or two of placenta in it. So yeah, that was weird. And then she cut it up and put it in my freezer. So a couple of days after I had the placenta smoothie, but I think by like day 3 I was just like, no, this is really rank, and I threw it away. Apparently it's supposed to help with postpartum, stop you getting postpartum depression and all this stuff. I don't know. And yeah, that was it then. We had loads of cuddles, and then I think I might have showered, and then we took loads of photos and came upstairs and went to bed. And Tony emptied out the pool. It had this liner and you could just pick it up, throw it away, and then drain the pool into the garden, deflated it. He got all that done that night as well. We just spent the rest of the night enjoying staring at Maya, looking at her, falling in love with her, and it was just amazing. I'm so glad we went for a home birth. So yeah, my camera's about to die. This was my home birth story. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, please don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and I'll see you next time. Bye.